All right, we'd like to welcome all to our fire pit chat with Mr. David Metter, and we're gonna give everybody just a few minutes to join in here, and then we'll get started. Maybe Dave could hum a tune while we're waiting, a little background music.
Well, I knew you'd have your guitar, so should have
that's
like
right.
Bongos or something.
Grab a harmonica, ukulele, and get something going in here.
There you go.
All right, I see some folks coming in. So somebody wants to hear what we're going to talk about here, Dave.
Well, I mean, I told my mom and some of our kids.
Yep. We offered a small spiff for any trade pending employees that would show up. So you have some of that going on as well. And let's go ahead and put this into slideshow for us. There we go.
I love the fire pit chat.
Yeah.
Instead of fireside chat.
Yeah. We're efficient around here. Just a small fire pit. All right. Well, while everybody else is coming in, we'll do some quick housekeeping stuff here. Again, I'm Joe Dallas, regular host of our fire pit chats, the chief business officer over here at Trade Pending, and today we have a great guest. Anybody that's been in auto for any amount of times probably at some point rubbed shoulders with David Metter, founder and principal at Connector, which we'll get into later on, but has a really cool story, great history to tell, and we look forward to the chat. And we already have someone in the chat saying hello, Mr. Metter, and that's from Lee Herndon. So I know you guys go back as well.
It's just a bunch of old people.
Yeah. Well. So we're going to record today's webinar. If you registered and couldn't make it, we'll send out that recording. We've got everybody silenced, but if you have any questions, which we might have time to open up at the end, just use that Q&A button and drop any questions you got in there. So a couple of housekeeping things. Marketing's all over it right now. Please follow us on our social media channels. We're doing product updates, case studies, bunch of other things, useful tools like the inventory sourcing checklist, which is big right now, and also where we're going to be and when. We've got conference seasons sort of firing up here, starting with NADA. We're going to be at some other places, and also we're always giving away stuff. So t-shirts, mugs, and a bunch of other things that could be interesting. Speaking of swag, we're going to have some significant swag presence at NADA in Las Vegas. I know we're all getting excited about it. After the 2021 virtual NADA, I think we're all just foaming at the mouth to get back in person, to shake hands. And we're going to have a bigger booth this year, same comfy couches. We're going to have a nice little cocktail bar there every day. And also might do a little after hours sweet cocktail thing. So kind of keep on the lookout for that as well. But our booth number is 6635 in the North Hall, where all the cool kids are. So come see us there, and we look forward to being back in Vegas. And then, as always, wrong direction. If you want this one of these little wobbly birds, just please go to bit.ly/PeteBird. Keep in mind it's case sensitive, and order yourself one. We'll send you one. You don't even have to pay for it. It's free. All right. Cool. Mr. Metter, welcome.
I have my wobbly bird.
Yeah. And representing really well in the background there, that's tradepending.com. That's fantastic. So thanks for joining us today, David. Really appreciate you taking some time out, and just wanted to kind of kick things off like we normally do, just by asking, who's David Metter, and how in the world you end up in automotive, and walk us through that first part of your career there.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. Like most people in automotive retail, I got in completely by accident. I was failing out of college, I was running out of money, and selling cars presented itself, and actually one of our big donors at the college that was down the road owned the car dealership, and his son went to school with us, and they invited me down. I thought they were going to put me to work in like the parts department, but started selling cars, sold cars for 7 years. Fortunate that had great mentorship and training from people like Joe Verdi, back in the day, and like most people who have any success in selling cars, we go into management, which is usually like the biggest mistake, right? And so I did that, became a sales manager, eventually became a general manager, just right place at the right time. And but I always had like this weird technology bent. And I had actually built a CRM system when I was a salesperson out of an ACT database. And if anybody remembers that is completely dating myself. But
a what database?
Yes, ACT, A-C-T, ACT
Okay.
Database.
All right, I'll look that up.
Yeah, it was DOS based, I'm pretty sure. But
I do know what that is.
I might have been running it on a Commodore 128.
While you're playing Atari?
Well, I was playing Atari. That's what it's funny you say that, because I was one of the first salespeople. I had a computer. I had to buy my own computer, put it on my desk. And, that's what I always got from my managers. They always thought I was playing like some kind of weird video game. Like, no, I'm like following up on customers. And so, the long story short on that was I loved the technology side of the car business and how it could make me a better salesperson. And eventually, as a manager, we tried to, kind of duct tape some kind of system together for the rest of salespeople. And man, I got super lucky, and I met a guy named Brian Anderson who had just started Autobase. It was like one of the first CRM companies out there. And he convinced me to join him. Like our business deal was on a napkin from Applebee's. And
as all great businesses start.
In Fort Wayne, Indiana, of all places, we met. And so that's how I got started. I was fortunate to be one of the early members of that company, and we grew that exponentially, had great success, and leveraged that into a financial partner coming in. Eventually, they sold that business to Dominion, and I leveraged it. And we had this great client in Baltimore. We had grown the business across the East Coast, and the client was MileOne. And when I knew I was leaving Autobase, they offered me this job, and it was a marketing job, and it was like a marketing lead job. I can't remember what the official title at the time was. It wasn't chief marketing officer, but it was like VP of marketing or something like that. I mean, A, I had no degree. B, I had no marketing sense other than what I had learned, in the car dealership world, and then what I had learned at Autobase. And so I confidently said yes, but I had no confidence in what I was going to do. And worse yet, when they hired me, there was about a 4-month lag in when they wanted me to start. And so that's fun, but like I had 4 months to lose confidence that I was going to do a good job. But as I was doing that, I was building a business plan, what I thought was going to work well there. And man, we just, again, talk about right place at the right time. The infancy of digital in 2004 was like, it just had this open opportunity, and we tried everything. I had great resources at MileOne, and I had a phenomenal team. A lot of those people are still in the auto industry in leadership roles. But most importantly, I think we had really good vendor partners who were willing to do some crazy stuff. Like we were one of the first direct customers of Google, and I don't think they knew what they were supposed to do with us, but we learned search and SEO practices directly from Google, instead of how you learn now is kind of indirectly from the search engines, and they have a whole different philosophy now. But it was so cool, and we just had great growth over the time I was there. I was there, a little over 6 years, and great people and just awesome opportunity. And during that time, I still had that technology bent, and was fortunate to meet a company that was not in auto, it was outside of auto, in a company called Hook Logic. They were doing some crazy stuff in retail and travel. And and that story came together in the sense that we had ideas of how we could apply it to auto and really connect attribution from digital to showroom visitation. And that was like a rocket ship. We officially started that company in 2011, and in 2015 had somewhere in the neighborhood of about 6,000, 7,000 dealerships ish, and sold that business to Urban Science, where it really honestly continued to grow, and but afforded me the opportunity in learning how to sell a business, because that was crazy, to sell to somebody who had never bought a business in the auto tech industry before. Like, Urban Science wasn't an acquirer that you hear, like you do now,
right.
With other companies, but it afforded me a lot of exposure to OEMs, to dealer groups, to great dealerships across the country, and a lot of vendors. And so, scenes for the last 4 years that I honestly enjoy a heck of a lot more. In fact, I'm somewhat reluctant in these, in an environment like this, because I don't do it all that often anymore.
Yeah, no, I understand, man. What a great story. And it's crazy how you start encapsulating like 25 years and you can do it in like 10 minutes. But tell us about Connector and what that being kind of where you are now and what you're doing. You serve on the trade pending board, which we were very excited to have you come on to be an advisor, and appreciate that. And talk about that with Connector.
Yeah, behind the scenes, I get to work with great companies that are looking to do a couple of different things to grow to a point where they need capital investment, to the point where they may be looking to sell their company, and that's where I come alongside a founder or an executive team and help them with my experiences of doing it directly with AutoHook. And then we had the follow-on purchase of Hook Logic to Criteo a year later, to use all of those experiences and those connections and relationships to help a founder kind of put himself or herself in a position to either grow their company with some investment capital, or to put them in a position where ultimately there's a new home for them. And that's really what Connector is about.
Awesome. So thinking about like our current state of what's going on in the industry, like if you were to imagine you were back in the CMO seat of a dealer group, and I know you still talk to a ton of CMOs and dealer folk, like what's the industry like, and what would you be doing in that chair right now?
Yeah, it's funny because when I was in the role, all we were looking for was market share, growth opportunity, and how to lower our costs. I mean, you could kind of argue that that's what people are thinking about now, because right now they have you have reduced inventory, so you only have so much to sell. You have to maximize whatever you have, but you also don't want to lose, like, people really don't want to lose market share. So they want to figure out how do they increase market share. And that could either be, they might be a little set on new car because they only get so much, but on used car, like how do you, grow your market share in your market, on the used car side, and how do you reduce costs? I always took the approach, and I would probably take that same approach if I were to be dropped into a dealership or a group today, is I want to continue momentum. Like, I think the worst thing that dealers could do is like, just go, hey, I'm good, I'm going to cancel everything. And, when things start getting a little tight, maybe I'll go back and I'll do those things. I think that's reactionary. And I think you lose momentum. I would look at, okay, how do I now take the next step where I feel like I could get an edge on my competitive market? Mm-hmm. How could I figure out how to communicate with customers that seem to still want to be in the market. We may not have the cars for them, but how do I how do I keep them warm in a way that when and if I can sell them a car, I'm the one and no one else is the one. That's probably at a very high level. That's how I would think about it. I wouldn't just get excited about, writing $4 and $5 and $6 grand to copy vehicles.
Yeah. What about, on that topic? I mean, what do you foresee in a year or two, with what's happened over the last year with, incredibly high prices, like over sticker pricing? You got customers that are going to be, extremely underwater in a fairly short amount of time. Like, what do you think that's going to sort of do to the industry?
Well, I think it's going to mess it up for sure. I think, everybody gets excited about those types of deals now. But, in fact, it was funny. I was just talking to my wife this morning, and I said, people are not buying cars right, and which is going to put them in a position, especially if they're heavy, if there's heavy financing on that vehicle. This market is going to correct itself. And then it's really going to be tough. It doesn't matter if there's new car inventory there, because they're not going to be able to get themselves out of the inventory that they're currently in. Like, that's going to be a real problem. And so how do I personally figure out how to handle that? I mean, my hope would be, and this is so easy to say in my seat because I'm not in a dealership, like,
Okay.
I would want to sell cars the right way. I see dealerships that are very concerned about the same thing, and that's what they're advertising. They're advertising that they're going to be here, and I think that that's the right play, because you're also going to get these people who buy cars from dealers that have maybe priced them at a certain amount. They're not going to go back to them. I would be very careful to take care of my clients, my customer base that I have right now, because they're the ones that are going to get me. It's always the customers that you've taken care of that get you through the hard times.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And those hard times will come even with inventory coming back. It's gonna be kind of dicey in those trade situations. I'll tell you the other thing that dealers really need to be aware of. And it's just all of these, there's all kinds of different things that are happening where we didn't have to worry about that 10 years ago. We didn't have Carvanas, and we didn't have Vrooms, and we didn't have all of these. And I still think that the dealer experience is absolutely the best one. And I think that the relationships between dealers and OEMs is super important. But I think that the dealers have to be mindful of these things. And you've seen a lot of dealers over the last year, pre-pandemic, or really maybe even in the pandemic, but pre-inventory issue, we're starting to do some things that were so client focused that I think will pay off for them in the long run. Yeah,
it's so true. Like, you never get hurt by putting people first. I was even thinking from like a mathematical standpoint, you have a customer base that, in an inventory shortage, the assumption is everybody's sold less cars this past year than they would have otherwise. And now you're going to have your customer base that potentially is in a really bad position. So you're like, what are you doing to your service department? Like, you're going to have less service customers over the next couple of years, and you potentially might have abandonment from people you otherwise would have. So it's going to be interesting to see how all of that plays out. The macro economics just kind of fascinate me on that.
Well, and I think that the service departments, we always talk about being able to pull people from service back into sales. I think people are going to get really serious about that, whether it's dealerships that get serious about it or tech vendors that really start thinking about that, and how do you really keep those customers in the flow, the just constant circle. My hope is that becomes, with the time that they have now, I think my hope is that they become really focused on that, so that when things do change a little bit, that really becomes, saving grace for them.
Yeah. So let's talk about digital retailing. know that we've invented this phrase and beaten it to death for like 5 years now. It seems like in 2020 it was like if you were selling digital retailing, your life was amazing. But here we are in 2022. What's your kind of current view of not just digital retailing in of itself, but the dealer's relationship with it today?
Yeah, I think people who know me, I'm lukewarm on digital retailing, not because I don't think that it's a thing. I do absolutely think it's a thing. I think if digital retailing is focused on two very important pieces, then I think it's the greatest thing. And those two very important pieces, the trade evaluation and the F&I experience. And so I think those, if you talk to anybody that comes through a car dealership and you've seen these surveys, special surveys, those are the two areas of angst that they really don't enjoy all that much. And I think that if you have this way of cutting the trade experience down in time and in anxiety, like you win, right? And I think the same thing in the F&I experience. So if digital retailing is helpful in those two areas and it's fluid from an online to an in-dealership process, like I'm all in. The problem is that I think digital retailing got propped up because nobody, I shouldn't say nobody, lots of people didn't want to go into dealerships through the height of the pandemic. So digital retailing became a thing. I think we've seen since then, I think people actually do love the experience of the in-dealership, process, minus those two things. And if we can help them speed that up, then I think the emotional journey of selling a car to a customer, I think there was a lot of things they love about that.
Yeah. So where do you think that? So I'm kind of back and forth on this whole concept of everything, of retail dying in general, not just automotive, but just retail. Like I think about personal shopping habits within my family. It's like, if you're buying t-shirts or jeans, Amazon Prime's fine. That's great. But if you want to go out and buy a nice new suit, or my wife wants a nice new dress, like I need to go to the store and like feel it and touch it. And so where do you feel like, if you had your crystal ball, let's make some predictions on, Carvana and that whole model in 5-10 years?
I mean, I think that there's still a customer set for them. I think that there are people who think of cars as t-shirts and jeans. And so that experience isn't as big of a deal. But I think for a much larger portion of the population, that emotional, like somebody said to me the other day, I was at lunch, and I hope I phrase it correctly. He said, like, the things that, like, I don't care about the commodities, like the grocery, I get my groceries delivered to my house, I get all this stuff. But the things that create an experience for me, I still want to do in person. Mm-hmm. And we weren't even talking about the car buying process during that time, but it really applies to it. I think that if you can get some of the mundane pieces done, and the most important piece is the connectivity, so that you're not restarting that whole process over when you go to have that experience in a car dealership. Like, I think crystal ball, I still think that is going to be the process for, many people, car buying population, 5 years from now. I just think that the dealerships that have focused on cutting down that delivery process, I've even heard some dealerships advertise like the hour process. How you get there are having an efficient trade in, process, and an efficient F&I process.
Yeah, 100%. And I feel like a lot of dealers can do what Carvana does today. Maybe they just don't talk about it or market it as well as Carvana does, right? Yeah. What were you gonna say?
Yeah, I was gonna say, from a salesperson perspective, in the early 90s, I was selling cars and delivering them to people. I mean, I didn't put them on a truck that said Carvana, but I was still, that was part of my process. And those people would buy, 8 to 10 cars from me over the time that I sold cars, just because I did that little extra thing. I mean, we can do that now. Like, people do that now. Good salespeople do that now.
Yeah, so. Absolutely. So with, 5 minutes left here. We'll open it up for some Q&A to everyone. And just kind of a couple of fun things here, David, in all of your NADAs and dealing with other companies. What's your favorite swag that you've ever received?
I would tell you that I'm just trying to think of all the crazy stuff that we had. Like, I've got some pretty sweet wine glasses that were swag. I mean, that was high-end swag, but it was pretty sweet.
That sounds pretty good.
I'll tell you the one that I enjoy the most. Company, I don't know if you want me to name companies, but large company here in Atlanta did sunglasses to one of our events. It was, what a cool thing. And it had like my name on the outside of the case. Actually, we stole that at AutoHook and did that for an advisory board one time. And I still get, advisory members talking about their cool Ray-Ban, sunglasses we got them.
All right, it's marketing listening. That is a fantastic idea. We got to do that. Well, I know we're going to have some cool stuff at NADA. We've got like custom coasters, koozies. We're actually going to have a t-shirt bar. So we're going to have a real bar and then a t-shirt bar. So we're excited about that. So we're hoping to keep our swag game going pretty well here. So the one last thing. I see Gary Marcotte in the chat. Gary, how are you, man? It's good to see you on there.
I don't answer any questions from Gary Marcotte.
Well, it's not a question; it's a statement. It says that large company out of Atlanta also sent you to Germany to drive on the Autobahn, which sounds pretty fantastic too.
That may or may not be true.
Did you wear your Ray-Bans while you did that?
That wasn't the trip I got them, but I did wear some, and we drove Ferraris. That
sounds great.
That was back in the day when, there were cool trips like that. I don't know if they do that anymore. Well, you know why? Because there are people like me that sit on boards that don't allow those sorts of things anymore.
Well, I was trying to figure out how to wedge that in for our 2023, board get together. So
yeah,
well, David,
I'll vote for that.
We really appreciate you taking some time out of your day, and I know everybody that's on. It's nice to have good conversations with smart folks in our industry. So we can't thank you enough for that, and for being an advisor here at Trade Pending. We've really loved the influence since you came aboard.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. Great opportunity.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Well, thanks for your time, and keep a lookout for our ongoing series here. I know we've got some more webinars coming up here in the next couple of months with some more great guests, including some other board members. So we'll look forward to that as well. All right, everybody. Have a great day. See you.